Mid-toast, 70 pairs of eyes turned to us, to him, holding his champagne glass aloft, and to me, frozen beside him. "I've decided," Daniel said, his voice booming across the reception hall, "that this is the right moment to be honest. After 27 years of marriage, I'm leaving Lena." Gasps. Forks clinked onto plates. The string quartet fell silent. My daughter Erin's mouth hung open, her graduation sash still draped over her shoulder. But me, I didn't cry, I didn't shout, I didn't collapse like everyone expected. I smiled, controlled, even amused. "Congratulations on finally saying it out loud," I said softly, raising my glass. "Enjoy your big moment." "Daniel, I've already had mine. My name is Lena Hartwell. I'm 52 years old. And up until 5 minutes ago, I played the role of the picture-perfect wife, PA president, charity organizer, supporter of my husband's every doomed startup idea. I had buried my dreams more times than I could count. And all for a man who had just announced, in front of 70 guests, that he was leaving me." From the corner of my eye, I spotted her, Madeline Quinn, his 31-year-old assistant. The same woman who had once brought me lattes to my husband's office. The same one who used to compliment my scarves and ask where I got my hair done. Now she sat 3 tables back, cheeks flushed, clutching her wineglass like it was an anchor in a storm. My friends surrounded her, the ones who knew and said nothing. I calmly reached into my purse and pulled out a small silver envelope. Sealed, thick, creamy, the kind you use when sending either love letters or legal documents. I placed it beside Daniel's dessert plate. He blinked. "What's this?" "Something for you to open later," I replied, my voice smooth. Then I turned to Erin, my daughter, whose face had gone sheet white. I leaned in and kissed her forehead. "I am so proud of you. This day is still yours." And with that, I stood, straightened my dress, nodded to the guests, and said, "Please, enjoy your dinner. I hope you all have a lovely evening." I walked out, heels clicking on marble, 70 silent stairs burning into my back. The heavy ballroom doors creaked shut behind me. And then slam. I heard the door swing open again. "Lena," Daniel's voice, sharp and panicked now. "What the hell is this?" I kept walking. My hand didn't even shake as I pressed the unlock button on my car keys. For the first time in years, I felt light. Free. Because that envelope, it contained the beginning of the end. Not for me. For him, you see. While Daniel had spent the past year lying to my face, planning this dramatic little announcement to line up with Erin's graduation weekend, I had spent 6 months watching, preparing, quietly gathering every transaction, every message, every secret. Daniel thought I was naive. He'd always underestimated me, the steady one, the supporter, the silent strength behind his chaos. What he didn't know, I used to be an accountant. A damn good one. I was the one who paid the bills when his craft beer company tanked. I was the one who budgeted through his mobile app disaster. I was the one who picked up part-time consulting work when he needed time to figure things out. And 3 months ago, when I noticed a string of transfers from our joint account to a business I'd never heard of, I didn't ask, I watched, and then I traced. Madeline's name came up fast, registered co-owner of a tiny LLC in her name, no business activity, just a shell. That's when I started the paper trail. Because Daniel had forgotten one very important thing. We had a prenup, signed 27 years ago, back when I had money and he had nothing. Back when he insisted we protect his future empire. He didn't read the fine print. But I did, and the infidelity clause. Ironclad. So while he was whispering to Madeline about a fresh start and freedom, I was collecting screenshots, bank statements, emails, and hotel confirmations. I knew he'd wait until after the ceremony. He's not heartless, just a coward. He wanted to wait until the celebration ended. What he didn't expect was that I would strike first. I didn't return to the ballroom. I drove to the house, our house. The one Daniel had already promised Madeline, according to the emails he sent from the account he thought I didn't know about. When I stepped inside, everything looked the same. The family photos, the vase I bought in Florence, the rug we argued over for 3 weeks. All of it, untouched. Except one thing. Daniel's bags were already packed, hidden in the hall closet, behind the coats. He had been planning to leave the next morning. The message was clear: graduate, our daughter, then ghost his wife. But I was one step ahead, because this wasn't just about betrayal, it was about control, about dignity, and I was taking mine back one document at a time. By the time Daniel burst through the front door later that night, I was sitting calmly in the sunroom, sipping tea and reviewing legal notes. "Lena," he barked. "What the hell did you do?" His tie was loosened, his eyes wild, and in his hand, crumpled and trembling, was the silver envelope I'd left next to his dessert. "Is this real?" he demanded. "Divorce papers. Filed today, on our daughter's graduation." I looked up slowly, locking eyes with him. "I thought it was poetic," I said. "You made your announcement at dessert. I served mine with the appetizers. You blindsided me," he spat. "Oh," I tilted my head. "How inconvenient. That must have felt humiliating." He ran a hand through his hair. "This isn't you. You don't do revenge. You're not like this." "No," I agreed. "But you changed the rules. I just stopped playing by yours." He collapsed into the armchair across from me, already defeated. "The prenup was years ago," he said, eyes pleading. "That clause can't possibly hold up." I smiled. I had been waiting for this line. "Section 14, I said, opening my binder. "The fidelity clause remains enforceable for the full duration of the marriage, including legal proceedings. Your signature. Your lawyer. Your bright idea, remember." He swallowed hard. I could almost hear the sound of gears turning in his head, scrambling for control, grasping for some upper hand. "I'll contest it," he finally muttered. "You're welcome to try," I replied, standing. "But just know, I've already frozen the accounts." His head shot up. "You what?" "Joint accounts," I clarified. "I filed an emergency motion. The judge signed it this afternoon. Your little shell business with Madeline, frozen, all pending discovery." His face turned red, then white. "You can't do that." "I did do that." He stood suddenly, pacing. "This is overkill, Lena. A marriage falls apart, and now I'm the villain." "No, Daniel, you're the villain because you were planning to gut me financially, humiliate me in front of our daughter, and lie about everything until you walked out the door." He turned sharply. "What did you tell Erin?" "Nothing," I said. "Not yet. I didn't want to ruin her day, but you did that all by yourself." My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Philip, my attorney. "Update. Court has approved temporary spousal support structure. Gregory's access to joint savings suspended. Documents delivered. Call tomorrow." To prep for hearing, I locked the screen and looked up at Daniel, whose hands were now clenched at his sides. "Madeline's going to freak out when she hears," he muttered. "She moved into the apartment. The one I leased for us." "Oh, that apartment?" I asked, arching an eyebrow. "The one you applied for under both your names." He narrowed his eyes. "What about it?" "I got a call last month," I said casually. "The leasing office called the house phone for employment verification. I told them you were unemployed." Which was the truth. The application never went through. They flagged it. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Any more in a way, he didn't. The Lena he knew would have begged him to stay. Would have cried and questioned herself. Would have cleaned up his messes with a broom in one hand and a broken heart in the other. But that Lena was gone. "You're destroying everything," he said quietly. "No," I corrected. "You destroyed everything. I'm just cleaning up the debris." He left without another word, slamming the door so hard it rattled the hallway mirror. I didn't flinch. Instead, I texted Erin, "I'm okay. Please don't worry. I'll explain soon. This is between your father and me. I love you." That night, I stayed with Celia, my childhood best friend, who had moved back to town 2 years ago. She opened her front door and pulled me into a hug without saying a word. "I heard," she whispered. Everyone heard. Of course, they had. The graduation party had been full of community figures, neighbors, clients, people who knew me as Mrs. Hartwell, the loyal wife. Daniel's announcement spread like wildfire. "He embarrassed himself more than you," Celia said as we curled up in her den with a bottle of red wine. "Everyone said your exit was pure class." "That was the goal," I said. "Let him swing the wrecking ball. I'll keep the foundation." She grinned. "I've waited 20 years to see you take your power back. You make this look good." The next morning, Erin showed up at Celia's, still in her graduation dress, makeup smudged, her eyes red. "Mom," she said as I opened the door. "Please tell me this is some horrible misunderstanding." I took a breath. "No, sweetheart, it's not." We sat down on the porch steps, and I explained everything, carefully, gently, but without sugarcoating. The affair, the money, the plan, the apartment, the prenup. She didn't cry. She just looked, stunned. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything, I said, squeezing her hand. This is not your burden. Her jaw clenched. Dad hugged me yesterday and told me how proud he was. He took selfies with me, all while planning to blow up our family. What kind of person does that? A selfish one, I answered. She looked away, blinking back rage. He said you went crazy. That you ambushed him? I let out a breath. I didn't ambush him. I just decided not to stand there while he set my life on fire. Erin stood, her face hardening. I want to talk to him. I need to say some things. I won't stop you, I said gently. But don't do it out of rage. Do it with clarity. She looked me in the eyes. He burned the bridge. You just lit the match. I knew the moment. Erin confronted him, because he stopped texting, stopped calling, stopped pretending. She didn't tell me exactly what she said, just that she'd driven straight to the apartment he had promised Madeline, walked right in, and let every word fly like firecrackers. Apparently, Madeline had been completely unaware of the prenup, or the frozen accounts, or the fact that Daniel had drained our joint savings for a beach house. He couldn't legally buy anymore. He lied to me too, Madeline had said, standing there in Daniel's t-shirt in confusion. Realizing for the first time what betrayal felt like on her end, Erin told me Daniel stood there, speechless, as she asked him one question. Was any of it real? He didn't answer. He couldn't, and that silence told her everything she needed to know. 3 days later, we sat in a small courtroom, lined with wood panels and hollow promises. Daniel arrived in a wrinkled blazer beside a lawyer who looked like he'd been hired off Yelp at 2 a.m. I sat beside Philip, cool, collected, experienced. He nodded to the judge like they were old friends. Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman named Judge Calloway, flipped through our documents with a kind of practiced boredom that made me oddly calm. The prenuptial agreement appears valid, she said flatly. Fidelity clause is enforceable and has been triggered based on provided documentation. She paused. And audio evidence. Daniel's lawyer flinched. Oh yes. I'd included a voice memo, Daniel telling Madeline, once Erin's ceremony is done, I'll finally be free. Lena has no idea about the money. She trusts me completely. Joint accounts will remain frozen. Judge Calloway continued. Family home remains in Mrs. Hartwell's name until final ruling. Mr. Hartwell retains access only to verified individual accounts. Daniel leaned over to whisper to his lawyer, who shrugged helplessly. And lastly, the judge said, looking directly at Daniel, I suggest you take time to understand the documents you sign in the future. This agreement is airtight. The gavel dropped with a final thud. I didn't look at Daniel as I stood. I didn't have to. I could feel the panic rolling off him in waves. That evening, Erin came over for dinner. She looked older, not tired, just wiser. She moved out, she said between bites of lemon chicken. Who? I asked, though I already knew. Madeline took her plants, her espresso machine, and left a note. I raised an eyebrow. A note? Erin pulled it out of her purse. It read, you lied to her, you lied to me, and I'm sure you'll lie to the next one too. Don't call. Poetic, really. She lasted what, a week? Erin said. 10 days. I corrected. New record, she muttered. We both laughed, not out of cruelty but release. Like poison finally exiting the bloodstream. I still don't get it, Erin said after a while, voice quiet. You two had everything. A house, history, me. Why throw it away? I set down my fork. Because some people aren't chasing happiness, I said softly. They're chasing something new. And when they get it, they realize they left behind the one thing they couldn't replace. You, I smiled. Life built on loyalty, and love, and work. Erin reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You didn't lose everything, Mom. He did. Over the next few weeks, Daniel tried damage control. But it was too late. Our community wasn't big, and neither was the gossip circle. Word had spread fast. About the public graduation stunt. About the affair. About the frozen accounts and the failed apartment lease. Celia told me Madeline had started waitressing at a tapas bar near the waterfront. Daniel, on the other hand, had lost 3 of his investors when they learned about the divorce proceedings. 1. Evil told me privately, if he can deceive his wife of 27 years, why would I trust him with my capital? I said nothing. I didn't need to dot my financial consultancy, Hartwell Transitions, started small, a Craigslist ad, a referral from a friend. But soon, 1 woman became 5. 5 became 10 within a month. I had more clients than I could handle. Women going through divorce. Women fighting for custody. Women who didn't know what an IRA was, but were desperate to keep their homes. I want to be prepared, one said, eyes glassy, just in case. And I helped them. I didn't just crunch numbers. I translated pain into power. There's something holy about giving another woman the tools. No one handed you. As the final hearing approached, the one that would divide everything, Daniel called me, twice. I didn't answer. He showed up at my office, unannounced. My assistant blocked him at the door. He sent a letter, handwritten. I miss the sound of your voice. I miss how you used to wait up for me when I worked late. I miss the woman who believed in me more than I ever deserved. I thought I wanted freedom, but all I did was lose the one thing that made me a man worth anything. Please, one more conversation, just one. Daniel, I folded the letter once, twice, slid it into a drawer. Because sometimes, closure doesn't come from a conversation. Sometimes it comes from silence. The final divorce hearing took place on what would have been our 28th wedding anniversary. Irony, I've learned, doesn't always come with laughter. Sometimes, it walks into a courtroom wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit, pretending nothing's wrong. Daniel sat beside his attorney, thinner, worn down, wearing the same tie he'd once worn to our daughter's 5th grade recital. He wouldn't look at me. I didn't need him to. I had worn a navy suit, my grandmother's brooch on my lapel, and the calm of a woman who had already made peace with the storm. Judge Calloway took her seat without ceremony. Let's proceed, she said, reviewing our case like it was a formality because at this point, it was. The prenuptial agreement stands in full effect, she confirmed. Infidelity clause activated. Financial misconduct documented. Asset division will be honored per the terms laid out. Daniel shifted in his seat. He knew what was coming. He was about to lose the house, the vacation property, 70% of our investments, even the lake boat he'd named Second Wind. I retained all of it, not out of pettiness, but because that's what the contract we both signed dictated. The very contract he insisted on years ago, when I had the money and he had only dreams. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Hartwell? The judge asked. Daniel stood, slowly. I made a mistake, he said, voice cracking slightly, and not just legally. I lost something I didn't even understand the value of until it was too late. He turned to me. I know you won't forgive me, Lena, but thank you for everything you gave me, and I'm sorry for how I left it behind. The room fell quiet. Judge Calloway cleared her throat. Very well. Final decree will be signed and processed within 10 business days. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel dropped and, just like that, 28 years were over. Not erased, but finally, closed outside the courthouse. Daniel caught up with me under the gray sky. Lena, he said gently, I meant what I said in there. I turned to face him, rain misting down between us. I believe you, I said, but I don't need it. He blinked. I didn't leave you because of Madeline, he whispered. I think I just stopped seeing who you were. I nodded. That's the thing, Daniel. You didn't lose me. You let me go. And now, I'm finally free to see who I am, too. He lowered his eyes, nodded once, and walked away without another word. 3 months later, I moved into a restored cottage near downtown, not as big as the old house, but full of light, hardwood floors, and fresh lavender on the porch. Aaron visited every weekend, sometimes helping with painting, sometimes just to sit in the kitchen and talk like we used to when she was little. Daniel, he moved into a small apartment across town. Word was, his business was struggling. Madeline had stopped responding to his texts weeks ago. His savings had dwindled, eaten by court costs, poor planning, and a lifestyle he could no longer maintain. He wasn't cruel anymore. Just quiet. Sometimes that's worse. Hartwell Transitions, my consultancy, exploded by word of mouth. In 6 months, I went from a part-time financial advisor to a full-time strategist for women across the city, divorcees, widows, small business owners, teachers, starting over after decades of being told they were bad with money, but they weren't. They just needed someone to hand them the map, instead of walking away with the compass. I gave seminars, started a podcast, hired 2 associates. I became the woman I had once needed, the one who knew what financial independence looked like, even after betrayal. On a rainy afternoon in December, Erin brought over a pie and a portfolio. "I think I'm ready to invest," she said. "For real, like grown-up investing." I smiled, taking the binder from her. "You're way ahead of where I was at your age. I had a good role model," she said softly. And just like that, it was worth it. Weeks later, I received one last letter from Daniel. "You were never just my wife, Lena. You were the one who built the foundation I danced on like a fool. You deserved the world, and I handed you ashes. I hope, wherever you are, you've found peace and joy. You were always my better half, even when I didn't deserve you." I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because the chapter was finished and I no longer lived inside his pages. Now, when I walk into a room, I don't enter as someone's wife, or someone's mother, or someone's better half. I walk in as me. Whole, steady, free, because the envelope I handed Daniel that day wasn't just my escape, it was my key to the door I thought I'd never open, to the woman I thought I'd never meet, to the life I thought I'd never have, and, on the other side of it, not revenge but rebirth, not bitterness but clarity, and not loss but liberation.